Steve, I'm so glad you're here. I have really been looking forward to doing this episode with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here too, and I appreciate it so much that you're having me.
Well, and it's perfect to be talking about business development. In my world, yesterday, I actually did two workshops that were business development sort of programs for firms. And it's interesting because what I find every time I go into a room to talk about this particular topic, your area of expertise, people don't even really know what business development means. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a good place to start.
Well, business development for lawyers is its own little special place because it's not sales because that's a scary word.
Oh, yeah.
They'll just call it marketing because that's an easier word, right? But it actually isn't marketing. So it's closer to sales than marketing. So business development is really the act of the individual relationship building and relationship development that leads to new business. So we're out there networking, attending conferences, developing strategic partnerships, asking clients for quality introductions. So it's all of the face-to-face personal interaction and engagement that's driving meetings and ultimately driving business. And so the old school would be we call it sales, but the new school is that's a scary word. Let's call it business development, and that's what we're going to stick with.
Yeah, well, and it is a scary word. In fact, sales is probably one of the scariest words for my colleagues in the
Yeah.
legal, in the dispute resolution world, because it verges on that advertising word that is such a no-no. But I love the word that you did use because I think it's the key to everything, and that's relationships. Building those relationships. And that may sound familiar to people who are listening, right? We are used to the concept of building those relationships with colleagues, with potential clients, with others in the stream of business who might not be necessarily the person who does what we do, but they work with the same people that we do, and they may know people that need us. But a lot of people see those relationships as transactional. I send you a referral, you send me a referral. I'd love to get your input on that perception of the relationship.
Yeah, there's a know, like, and trust that needs to occur. And so when we go out with the mindset of we've got to sell somebody, or when we go out with the mindset of I hate this, I'm here because I have to be here, right? That's not really leaning into what we should be doing, which is asking people questions, listening to what they say, finding common ground and natural affinity with people. Who do I like? Who do I not like? If there's someone I like and they're strategic to what my initiatives are, and maybe I'm strategic to their initiatives, there's a way to add value. We're both excellent at what we do. There's a number of things that I teach my clients to sort of qualify who we should be really dealing with. And again, we could spend an unlimited amount of time going out and meeting people, but ultimately what we're trying to find are people that we like and trust, people who are authorities in their space, people who maybe have a large network to draw from, and people who are finding themselves in situations where they may be in a position to refer you on a fairly regular basis. And I think the transactional part of it happens, but it's always more fun when we have a friendship, when we have a relationship, and I can help you and you can help me, and we get to enjoy each other and refer each other, as opposed to just it all being dollars and cents.
Yeah, I like how you have phrased that from that perspective of, yes, there's an aspect to this of I can help you, you can help me, perhaps, but I enjoy you actually as a person. We are in maybe collateral spaces where we maybe don't do exactly the same thing. But when you can build a genuine relationship with
Yeah.
people, that's where I find you really then start to build, well, I guess I'd call it that relationship. You can have acquaintances but a relationship, I think, is that level deeper. Someone said to me yesterday, actually, let me just point out, it's someone I met through you. We were having a lovely conversation and we were talking about how we might be able to support each other. And he used a phrase I love so much about a rising tide lifting all boats.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were got to that point in the conversation, and he had all these wonderful suggestions for how he might support me. And I really wanted to return that favor. He had lovely ideas. And I said, please tell me after we've spoken to each other, are there any ways that pop out to you how I might be able to help you? And that's when he said, well, Susan, let's look at it this way. A rising tide lifts all boats. I'm guessing that's something that he maybe perhaps learned from you, or that something permeates your teaching with your clients.
Yeah, I think I had this incredible breakthrough with a client of mine who just went solo, and he's out hustling, networking, and meeting people at a sort of a very rapid pace. And he had an epiphany, and he shared it with me, and I was so thrilled because it's what I do every day and what I try to impart on them. And it was, I'm not going out to just meet people to say, hey, if you need a litigator, use me. He was going out with the intent of who can I find that I can enjoy, who can I learn about, and then who can I help? And so he's going out with a mindset of helping and being a giver and trying to connect the dots for others. And he got into a groove where he was like enjoying that, as opposed to meeting with people and it just being a grind of just having to meet all these people. And it's kind of a task you have to do or a job you have to fulfill. And so when you look at it from a standpoint of all tides lifting all boats, or just being a giver and going at it from approach of how can I help others, that takes a lot of the pressure off of the sale, or a lot of pressure off of I'm here to get something from me. It'll happen in a much more natural way. And I think that's really what lawyers don't understand, is that there's systems and approaches and language that they can learn and use that's going to make this a much more interesting and fun, versus something that just seems like it's, I have to go do sales, which I don't think any lawyer really would enjoy.
No, there again, we go back to that
it's a dirty word, right?
The dirty word of sales. And you mentioned the being out. A lot of this does happen personally. It can happen virtually as well. I mean, there are ways to set up calls. But I think a lot of colleagues think of networking, if we use that word, as something that they do on occasions where they're dropped into a networking situation, or they go to a conference and they run around with either their business card, passing those out, shaking as many hands as possible, or with their LinkedIn QR code that they flash at people. But you, I know, talk about finding the opportunities or creating the opportunities. And you've been sort of alluding to that. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So again, there's two ways to network. One is to just go out and do your best and push business cards and press flesh and just wing it and hope that you're going to get an outcome, hope that you're going to get a positive result from that time invested, a conference, an event, a group that you belong to, a board that you've been on for years and you've gotten nothing out of it. And what I'm trying to impart on lawyers is very much like learning the law or learning how to smoke meat or play a sport. There are systems, right? There are systems that are learnable. They're in my books. They're in my podcast. They're in the things that I teach my clients every day as a learned skill. And so how do you prepare to go to a networking event? Are you looking at the list? Are you connecting with people on LinkedIn so there's a face to a name when you get there? Are you talking with the event coordinator to find out more about the event? And would that person be interested in introducing you around because you're new? There's all these little tricks of the trade that we can do. And then when we're there, how are we approaching people? What questions are we asking? What are we listening for to qualify whether we should spend more time with them or maybe we need to hit the bathroom or the bar because enough of this person already. It's been 15 minutes of them trying to sell me life insurance and all I want to do is get the heck out of it.
Get away from the life insurance. Yeah.
Get away. Well, life insurance can be good. There's some real perks, but again, they shouldn't be selling you life insurance. They should be asking you questions about your life that might be, hey, there's this thing you may not even know about, like long-term care that you can get out of life. Well, that's really interesting, right? Most people don't recognize that. So we're going in with an approach, with questions, with qualifiers to understand who we should continue talking to, who we shouldn't. Maybe there's things that we can bring up, like what should I be looking for in a good introduction for you? And they tell you, and you're like, oh, do you know who I see over in the corner of the room? That's Bob Jones. Bob's a CPA I've known for 20 years. Let me kind of walk you over there and introduce you. I think this is exactly who you want to meet. Now I'm being proactive in a group of actually taking people by the hand and being of service and being valuable. So how am I following up? Now, you're walking around pushing cards and pushing the LinkedIn. No, I mean, that's going to right away turn people off. So there's things that are learned skills that lawyers need to really take to heart, that if they're not getting value and ROI on their time over 6 months or a year of doing something. And I have a real quick story. I was talking to a guy, and he has been actively networking in this group for 2 years. He's told me like 300 to 400 hours.
Oh my God.
And I said to him, he's like, and I haven't gotten anything out of it. I said, well, you've built a network. He goes, well, yeah, I've built a network. And I'm like, and everybody likes you. He's like, oh yeah, everybody likes me, but I haven't got anything. And so what we figured out, and I hated saying this to him because it was sort of mean, but also sort of eye-opening. I said, so I think what's happened here is you're a professional meter. He goes, what? I go, yeah, you're a professional at going out and meeting people and making friends, but you're not converting anything. And I asked him the next question, and this was like, he was like, I could see he looked down right away. He was like, I said, how many people have you actively helped, that you've actively connected and tried to put and be a giver and put it out for them? And it was less than one hand. And I said, so you've been doing this for hundreds of hours, you've met with hundreds of people, and it's one hand of people, and you expect that you're going to get business? It just doesn't work that way. So he was very disappointed, but I think my hope is that unfortunately it took him 2 years to figure out something that if he had been a client of mine would have happened in 2 months, because I would have identified his lack of conversion as a breakdown in a system or lack of a system, and I would have addressed it right away. But it took him 2 years and hundreds of hours to eventually hear it from me, unfortunately, the bad news.
Well, but that's what a coach is for. That is what a someone who can look at things for you from that higher level. I mean, I think you just showed the incredible value of someone stepping in who knows the systems. And don't let me lose that, because I wanted you mentioned systems, and I think that's important. But I also want to emphasize that value, because often we do what we do because either we've always done it or we get into the groove of doing it, like this gentleman, for 2 years. And there was probably an ROI in enjoyment of meeting people. He sounds like he's probably an extrovert, likes to meet people, but he wasn't examining the return on investment of that time until he had someone sort of help him with that. But let's turn to systems, because you mentioned that. And that's the other thing that I find with business development that so many people fail to understand, is that there is a system. You just outlined sort of a way to approach your networking meetings, right? There's prep beforehand, there's conduct during, and things that you can do. And then I know that there's probably follow-up of different kinds after that. Can you walk us through at a high level sort of what the system is in a general way for professionals?
Yeah. So one of the things that drew me into working in the legal industry, because I'm not a lawyer myself, was the recession of 2008, where there was a lot of lawyers that had been let go and hours had dropped and things were challenging. And that sort of mirrored very well with my first book and the system that I teach lawyers, which is called sales-free selling. So when we talk about the hated word sales, I use it twice in the name of my book and my content, but sales-free is actually, okay, that I like. I don't want to be a salesman. I don't want to be a networker pushing cards on people and feeling really icky about it and watching like Moses part the seas because I walked into the room with a handful of cards to pass out. So everything that I'm teaching lawyers is done in a way where you should never feel salesy, right? So when we talk about networking and planning and execution and follow through, everything is about relationships. It's about helping others. It's about figuring out, is someone qualified to continue a conversation with about business? Now, if they're not, there's nothing that says we can't be friends. There's nothing that says that, right? You can be friends with anyone you want to be friends with. But the problem is, if all you do is go out and meet people and expect everybody's going to refer you, and you build a nice wide network, that's wonderful, but you're not going to get the business. Where the business comes from is the wide network, but more importantly, the depth of the strategic relationships that happen because of that wide network.
Yep.
So having systems like sales-free selling systems in place make the difference between wasted time, wasted energy, wasted money, because not only are you spending money doing things, but for lawyers, time is literally money. So when you're out spending 100, 200, 300 hours a year and you're not getting that ROI back for that effort, you're not building that book and building that network, then you're really out a lot of time and money and energy. So systems allows for us to not only follow something that we know is proven, but also when there's a misstep, like a great GPS system, like Waze a little bit, like when you go off track, you can get pulled back in because a system, there's a step skip that can then be debriefed and identified that, hey, I missed something and I can go fix that.
Well, and you're talking about the ROI, which is such an important part of anything that we do, yet we very often go into autopilot and forget to look at that. And I'm wondering, is there something that you suggest for actually tracking the ROI on this?
Yeah.
Is it a spreadsheet? Like we lawyers and adjacent professionals, we love our spreadsheets. Yeah. I'm wondering what you suggest for people.
Yeah, so there are CRM systems, right? Client relationship management tools, and they're getting better and they're getting AI driven so that I eventually feel like lawyers will have a better chance of using a CRM in order to track and measure and look at pipelines and look at mistakes and identify things. But until that day, I have what's called for all my clients, what's called an activities journal. The activities journal is where they're tracking all of their meetings, what happened in the meetings, what's the next step, and it's done in two ways. One page is literally just the numbers of how many meetings a day, a week, a month, and looking at, did those meetings convert to quality introductions? Did they lead to prospect meetings? Did they lead to new strategic partner meetings? Did you add value for the people you met with? And so we're tracking the numbers to see not only did they have enough activity in the month to warrant the type of ROI or result they're looking for. And this is the key. It also helps us determine how are they doing on conversions. So let's say someone has 10 meetings in a month, and then I look at their chart and I see no quality introductions, no prospect meetings, no strategic partner meetings. And by the way, they did nothing to add value for the other person. Well, do you want to let 2, 3, 5, 6 months happen where you're again being that professional meter 60 meetings later and you have nothing to show for it? Or do you want me to pick up on that early? Because I'm seeing that these journals every Friday. Every Friday I get inundated with almost 20
all of
journals.
Your clients' journals.
All of my clients sending me these journals, and I have to review them briefly just to see if there's something extraordinary that I need to email them and say, amazing week. Or this looks problematic. We need to have an impromptu meeting, or I'll see you at our one-on-one to discuss. Because I don't want to let time go by where they're making the same mistakes over and over, which we know is insanity.
Right. Well, and how your client who spent 2 years with no ROI would have found out much sooner, right? Following this tracking system, you would have been, as you said, able to highlight it in a much earlier period of time. I'm wondering, and this is off the point, but doing something like that, but having the clients have the ability to have AI sort of track their journal for them as well, just to give them some insights on how they might tweak it as well. They might want to upload that journal in there and follow through on it. One of my favorite uses.
Are you trying to take my job?
No,
it sounds like you're trying to take
I'm
my job. Hey, now.
Not taking your job at all. I'm actually thinking they could do that and then give you the output so that you can take that deeper for them, right, into the system. Because a lot of the times people will get the outputs and not really understand, but I think it would give you more valuable information.
Well, we're covering the results. What happens is this journal tracks the day, tracks the week, the month, and then it gives me a breakdown at the end of their total activity and did they achieve their goal, and then what are the percentages of what we suggested their goal was for conversions and what they actually were. So I am seeing that kind of result. But to your point, there's, I think, a lot of things that we can do to improve these spreadsheets through AI. And so I'm continually looking at ways to make these better and more sort of automatic. Like, are we sharing a doc? Are we getting AI to maybe step in and look at the conversions and maybe give them some feedback even before it gets to me? So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty I think of coaching and consulting, right? Because
Yeah.
AI in our world is just another tool we can use to add value to our clients. And
Right.
with our legal clients, AI is still a bit of a dirty word, but I think if they could see it in action in this type of setting, they'd see that there's great value in it for the ways that it can help them to sort of look at the work that they're doing that's not in the courtroom or in the conference room.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I did want to ask you, because a lot of my clients are actually making that transition from lawyer and legal careers that can span decades into dispute resolution practices.
Yeah.
And then also a lot of my listeners are dispute resolution professionals who come from different backgrounds, who don't have that legal background. So one of the challenges I think they face, this group well, let's hone in on the group that's transitioning from a legal career into a dispute resolution career. Often, what they miss about their networking and their business development is they maintain the patterns, the systems that they used for legal business development, and they carry it over into dispute resolution business development, and they're different things. So it doesn't have to be specific to business development for dispute resolution, but what kind of suggestions do you make for people when they're pivoting in their careers? You probably
Yeah.
get people who are going from maybe litigation in one area to be in-house counsel or something like that.
Yeah. Could be big law to small firm. It could be
Yeah,
moving practice areas. I do have people that are moving or doing both. For example, employment law and litigation and mediation, right? They want to
right.
do both and have both of those available. So, I mean, I'll say this that I've worked in over 50 industries. So you know, from a local website company to the Chicago Tribune to a local CPA firm. And so I'm not really seeing too much difference in having a good system as a lawyer building a book of business and having a good system as someone in mediation, arbitration, and anything that's a consulting role. It's still about leveraging your relationships, creating new strategic partnerships, referral partnerships. How are you building your personal brand so you're thought of? Because I think what's happening is people think if they go out and network, like that's the end of the story, when in reality, it's a combination of business development and personal branding that is elevating lawyers to new levels right now. And you're either in the game or you're sitting on the sidelines. So I have lawyers that we were talking about this earlier that they're not really doing much on LinkedIn and they just see it as a big, messy, gray, disgusting thing,
Disgusting.
right?
Yes.
When in reality, they're not wrong, but with everything, even Facebook, we all can find some silver lining that weaves through there where there's value for us. There's value for us as viewers, not doom scrollers. And there's value for us as people who can show our authentic side, provide value, provide education, information that people aren't getting from anywhere else, and elevating our brand in the middle of all this messy, gross stuff. So somebody's just posting super lawyer, someone's just posting, this is our firm retreat, this is someone at my firm that was speaking here or there. That's not really benefiting anybody. But if you're going to write an article about how AI is impacting litigation and every litigator needs to read this because this is what you need to know, and a litigator reads that and goes, holy mackerel, I've been doing this all wrong or thinking about it all wrong. This is someone who really gets it. Now you're in the spotlight. Now you've been highlighted and you've been put up on a pedestal and people are going to start following you. And as you continue to add content, you're the person that, like, people meet with me and they've been listening to my podcast for years, and I'm not a celebrity in any way, shape, or form. And if I think that I am for a minute, all I need to do is talk to my teenager. He'll knock me down. He'll knock me down real fast. Okay.
Real fast.
But when they tell me that it sort of feels like they're talking to a celebrity because they've been listening to me and following me for a period of time. Well, A, that feels nice. B, it's going to help that relationship at an entirely different level than if I'm a complete stranger going from 0 to 1 mile an hour.
Right. And I love that because it ties into the person who wrote that article about how AI affects litigation that someone reads. they just made themselves that lawyer. Right.
Yes.
It goes,
Yes.
ties right into your brand. And I'm titling this episode Be That Professional, since some of
Okay.
my people are dispute resolution or other things. But let's talk about how people become that professional. I love that tip you gave for LinkedIn. And I think it's also just really worth mentioning or highlighting what you just said. LinkedIn is another networking source. LinkedIn, I tell people to think of it as a networking cocktail party without the cocktails.
Yeah.
It's the place that where you also can go meet people anytime you want to by opening up your phone and opening up the app. But maybe we can close out with, I'll throw out a number, you see how many you can come up with, maybe 3 quick tips to help people be that professional.
And I've got this locked down. Number one, you became a great lawyer from going to law school and learning at your law firm and learning from your mentors how to be a great lawyer. Now you've achieved great success in your profession. Why is business development any different? It's not, right? So tip number 1, you need to become a student of the game. I know it's not what you signed up for. It's not why you know. I've yet to talk to a lawyer that said, I can't wait to become a lawyer so I can go out and sell legal services. It has yet to occur in 18 years working with lawyers. Okay. That being said, this is how you get independence, freedom, and control in your career. You need to have your own clients. You need to build your book. You need to make sure you're the one thought of. So read books, listen to podcasts, watch video. I'm a smoker of meat. I love to make ribs. I love to make stuff on my smoker. There's not a chance I could do it on my own. I've been watching videos at a crazy rate. I've been talking with all of my friends that smoke meat. I've been buying recipe books. You name it. I'm studying it like a craft and an art. And by the way, my wife is the one, and my wife is the one who celebrates when I bring something to the table.
Yes.
Okay. So number 1, be a student of the game. Number 2 is consistency. This is not something that can be a one and done or a hit or miss. If you're going to be on LinkedIn and you're going to post stuff, you have to do it every week. Okay. If you're going to do networking, you have to be out there every week. You have to make business development, personal branding, marketing your jam. Okay. And you've got to be consistent. And if you just do it hit or miss, then what ends up happening is you're on this roller coaster ride. You do it for a little bit, you get some things coming in, or you get some busyness, and then you drop back down, and then you're starting back up again, and it's not a fun ride. So you need to be consistent. Any and every Rainmaker would tell you that they're incredibly consistent with their business development. And the last thing I would say is lawyers struggle with time. They struggle with how to manage their day. They're getting hit all different fires everywhere, billable hours, things being thrown at them, managing associates, one just quit. You also need to become an expert at time management or time mastery. Yeah. I am leading by example. I have a 0 inbox every day. I have no paper anywhere near me, paper free. Right? I take off Fridays. I'm doing this on a Friday with you. Why? Well, because I decide my Friday. It's wonderful. And I've got 3 or 4 things scheduled today that I want to do, but no one has access to my calendar on Fridays. Well, how does that happen? It doesn't happen by accident. It happens because I became a student of the game, not just of business development, but of time mastery. And I follow all the greats. And that's helped me really be able to control my day and delegate and automate and all the things that allow me to have this control. So there's 3 tips that I know will work. Not easy, by the way, but important.
So important. And they put you in that space, folks, where you can have your Fridays. We're honored that you joined us on a Friday to share these fantastic insights. Now, in a half hour, you can only sprinkle a little of your wisdom on my listeners. Let's tell them how they can find out more about how to be that lawyer, mediator, et cetera. And just, you have so many different wonderful ways people work with you. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I really have three deliverables that I'm engaging with, and 2 of them have some limitations and 1 does not. So one is coaching and training. I'm one of the only coach I know in legal that not only does independent one-on-one coaching for attorneys, but I have a classroom, and right now like 17, 18 lawyers from around the world that get to enjoy learning business development as a skill and collaborating with each other and building those relationships, but working in a safe and confidential environment to learn skills that they'll hone and have for the rest of their careers. So coaching and training. The other is I currently run Rainmaker roundtables. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't need those skills, I've got them already. I've got a $3 million book. I'm crushing it. Well, maybe you feel isolated and siloed because you're doing something many people aren't, but you'd like to be in a room with 8 to 10 other managing partners, law firm leaders, Rainmakers, to share ideas, to get new ideas, and to have experts like Susan come in and talk about the stuff that, again, you're looking to learn. And then lastly, and this is a fairly new thing, is the Be That Lawyer community. And this is really for the senior associate, partner, looking to build, looking to grow, all of my content in one place, live events, chat rooms to learn from Rainmakers and have access to them and me. And that's something that is a very kind of low investment, low time, but high value proposition. So hopefully people go and check out community.bethatlawyer.com. And that's going to be a really fun project.
No, I'm excited. That's just launching, I know. So I'm excited for people to know about that. You also 5 books, 2 podcasts, a lot of content out there for people as well. I'm going to have, as always, listeners, links in the show notes for you to find everything. Be That Lawyer, find Steve. And Steve, this is a wonderful episode. I know that so many of my listeners are going to resonate with this. Their hands are going to be sore from taking down the notes. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely my pleasure. And I'm just so thrilled that we were able to do a pod swap and have you on my Be That Lawyer podcast as well. And that's always a fun thing. And I feel exactly the same way, a wealth of knowledge on both ends.
Well, thanks so much. This is going to be a lot of fun.